Hey everybody, Steven here. Quick video, just a thing I've been discussing with somebody at the gym. This gentleman is in his 60s and he's kind of doing some of the GMB programming stuff. He's doing like natural movement stuff. And he has a goal of being able to do a back bend, right? Now, I've dislocated both shoulders. It's not something personally that I am striving to attain, but he wants to. Now, he's training and he's asked me a couple questions and I've tried to steer him in the right direction. One of my clients, Charlotte, who has more injuries than anybody else I've trained, who's actually now an RKC kettlebell instructor, ground force method. She did the Onnit Academy certification with me. She just did like the Strong First Barbell course this weekend. Phenomenal just person and trainer, and she can do one. And she trained for like a year and a half to do one with all of her injuries, right? Labrum tear in her shoulder, like she's had multiple surgeries, like lower back disc problem, hip problem, like so many different things. It's crazy. And she's in her like mid to late 50s. So I got those two hooked up and she was kind of giving some pointers. But Billy has some other people at the gym, other trainers coming up and saying, well, you shouldn't do that. And then trying to point out all these different reasons why he shouldn't do that. One gentleman is older than him, saying that that's a waste of time and that he shouldn't do it and that he's going to show him what he should be doing. This is kind of my plight with the fitness industry. There's a lot of things that I see that before, years ago, I've been like, oh, you shouldn't do that. And the truth is, I like Ido Portal's saying, like, there is no wrong movement, just movement. Right? If the person wants to do that, allow them to do that. The thing where I kind of like distance myself or shift a little bit away from that is I think in general, movement, yes, there is no wrong movement, just movement. Meaning, for instance, people are like, well, you shouldn't be in kyphosis. Well, you should have the ability to go there, just like you should have the ability to go into the lordosis, right? A curvature of my upper spine, that's kyphosis. Opposite direction of my lower spine, a huge curvature this way, right? That being lordosis. You should be able to do that, right? If I'm doing spinal waves and my spine is mobile enough, it will do those things. Where it changes is under load, right? And this is where I like that saying, but it changes, like I said, once you add weight to this. Kyphosis and the ability to get there, yes, I should have all of those abilities, but once you actually load yourself and you're under a heavy barbell squat or you're doing deadlifts, that's where it becomes risky, because the heavier the load, the more at risk we are for hurting ourselves. So with all of that being said, I'm looking at his back bend and they're pointing out all these things that he shouldn't be doing because of that and the reasons why he can't do it and all these other things. And I go off, it's a cool thing that I picked up from the Onnit Academy, which is looking at kind of the three areas that we're typically in. And most people live in comfort and pain, and they kind of skip over this middle ground, which is discomfort, right? And working out is, I mean, it's uncomfortable, right? You experience discomfort when you're lifting, right? The burning sensation from doing whatever movement, right? The muscles get fatigued, right? That's what I mean by burning sensation, not neurological burning, right? So looking at that, yes, if it's painful, don't do it. But what I told this gentleman is if it's uncomfortable, that's fine, and you incrementally get there, that's fine. The trainer that came up and said, like, well, you don't have enough dorsiflexion, you shouldn't do that, and your hips are really, really tight, you shouldn't do that. Instead of saying that, what that person should have said is, hey, I see these things. I would probably do a little bit of soft tissue and stretching, try to mobilize that tissue a little bit more before you attempt that, right? Or integrate that into that practice. So I told the guy that's trying to do this, look, they're not trying to be mean, they're not trying to be rude. I understand what they're doing. And what they're doing is they're seeing him try to do this and they go, oh, I don't want him to get hurt. That's all it is. So they're coming over and then they're giving in their 2 cents, right? And they're really coming at it from their perspective. And I'm coming at it from mine. And my perspective is if he wants to do that, as long as it's not painful, he should continue that process. If it gets to the point where he's a year down the road and yeah, there hasn't been any headway and we've kind of been moving more into the pain side, let's move on, right? Because people look at it and they're like, why do you need to do that? Like, there's no reason. You don't need to do that, right? It doesn't serve a function. Meanwhile, some of these trainers are putting people up on Bosu balls and having them lift one leg up and raise their arms up and all these weird things. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, well, they are never going to do that, right? But then they'll distill it down for me. Well, you see, we're working on her balance a little bit and we're trying to do lateral raises for her shoulders and da-da-da-da-da. They'll keep going on. And I go, cool. Billy's trying to gain a little bit more mobility in his lumbar spine. He's working on his shoulder strength and his posterior shoulder girdle strength, right? I could distill that down too. So really taking whatever point of view you're coming from and telling somebody they cannot do that movement or they should not do that movement without being able to give a clear defined reason other than, well, you could hurt yourself. I could hurt myself walking down the street and tripping, right? Because I'm not spatially aware and I haven't been training that. There's just so many things that factor into movement that you can't do that and just say that you shouldn't do this and shouldn't do that. It doesn't matter. I look at interpretive dancers. Well, you shouldn't do that. I watched a breakdancer on a video. It was America's Got Talent. And the movement that guy was doing was insane. I'm sitting there, I was like, he doesn't need to train that. There's no reason he should train that, right? But he wants to, right? In the same manner that I look at powerlifters, they have no reason to clean and jerk that much weight. What the hell are they doing it with? Like they're not transferring that to skill, right? And what I mean by skill, because the powerlifters are going to come after me on that comment. What I mean by skill is like, I'm not clean and jerking and then going to my house and like I need to then use that exact motion for something with that amount of weight, right? Yes, it derives a ton of power, but what are they using that for? If they do that, they train and they build all that power and then they have a desk job, right? What are they using it for? But they love to do it, and that's why I won't judge it in that capacity. They love to do that. Awesome, they should do it. Keep going, right? If there's a way that I could help, but I do come across a powerlifter, and I don't have that background and I'm just looking strictly from a movement side, then I'll do that. But I would never come in and say, you know what, you shouldn't powerlift, right? If the person's experiencing a ton of pain, then I would say you need to go find a proper coach, let them dissect the movement, and then they can tell you, hey, this just isn't going to be in your wheelhouse. I don't powerlift because I've dislocated both shoulders. It just doesn't hold a large amount of importance for me to be able to do that. Certain movements I do, like deadlift and barbell squat and all those other things, but like a clean and jerk, right? Clean and press, anything like that. A snatch, actually, I don't really mess with those. I do a little bit on the kettlebell, but that's about it. So looking at that stuff and breaking that down, the main point of the whole video is, if you are a trainer, like, let's kind of moderate that a little bit and say, like, I shouldn't go over to somebody and say they cannot do that. Give some helpful tips. Like I said, if you saw that he had hip mobility issues or ankle mobility issues, give him some stuff that he can do with that, right? Versus saying, you know what, that's a waste of your time. You shouldn't do that. That's not really helping anybody, right? That can be, like I said, from whatever point of view. Like I said, I don't power lift, but I would come in if I saw something, be like, hey, like if we mobilize your shoulder a little bit, you could probably get more directly overhead without flailing your ribs or whatever that tip may be. But like I said, since I'm not a power lifter, if I came and they were having like legit problems, I'd say, man, you should probably go get a powerlifting coach, right? Or Olympic lifting coach. And I know some people that I could refer them to. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this in terms of if you've experienced that, and from the other side also, like if you've gone to the gym and somebody's telling you shouldn't do something, right? Just something that irks me, because like I said, sometimes, and I have to moderate this with myself, because sometimes I'll see that and I was like, and I'll look at it and be like, ugh. And this, where it gets me is that, like I said, it's really underload, where somebody has a super rounded back, right, very kyphotic back, and they're trying to lift a ton of weight. Let me come over there and let's get your spine neutral. Let's not kink your head like this when you're trying to deadlift, so you're putting all this pressure on your neck. Those little things. But I'm not going to say, hey, you shouldn't deadlift. It's a waste of your time, right? I want to hear from you guys, though. Like I said, either side, trainer side, or if you've been at the gym and somebody's tried to tell you that you shouldn't do something versus giving you helpful tips on that instead. That way we can get this conversation started, open up a little bit of dialogue with that. So if you guys like the video, hit the like button. If you want to continue to follow along with all of my content, hit the subscribe button. These are more conversation pieces that I'm trying to get started. I'm going through the grip approach right now, certification. I will start shooting more content in the coming weeks. Just been so busy with everything. And I did get a new gimbal that will actually motion track me now, so I don't have to hire a cameraman. And that is actually going to help with me being able to move around a lot more. And then the stand essentially pans the camera or my phone to follow me, which is going to open the door for a lot more unique content for you guys that I want to share with you. So that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Check back soon for more of these videos for me.